Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Dusty with the Fellowship Committee and team, or whatever you want to call me. And I am here with Kathy Grow today in her wonderful new place that we all drive by and don't get to see. So I'm considering myself pretty darn lucky.
We're always glad to give tours.
There you go.
We're very proud to live here.
Take a number. Take
Yeah.
a number.
There you go.
10 cents. 10 cents. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. If the rent goes up, we might have to kick it to 15,
Yeah.
but haven't heard anything about that yet, so I think we're all right.
Cool. All right. So, Kathy, thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for
How
asking.
did you become a member of your church, and what influenced you?
This was a pretty easy answer. I came to Yankton College in August of 1969, and I had gone to church my entire life because my dad was a minister.
Okay.
And he was a minister in the Congregational and the United Church of Christ. And so I had probably been to church every Sunday morning of my entire life. And when I came to college, I thought, I don't have to go anymore if I don't want to. And it was like, wow, this freedom, you know? And so I thought, the first Sunday I slept in, and it was like, wow. And the second Sunday I slept in, and I thought, huh. And the third Sunday I thought, I miss it. I really miss it. And so I started going like the third Sunday after I came here. And with some exceptions for times when I was in different places, essentially have been a part of the church in many ways since that time. It was an easy choice for me. It was the obvious choice. And I loved singing in the choir then, and I love singing in the choir now. And there was always things that... ways to participate, and I love the people. So no, it was a no-brainer.
Right.
And once I got past that first 2 weeks of thinking, ooh, I don't have to go anymore.
And where did you come from?
I graduated from high school in Mobridge, South Dakota. We'd lived there about 10 years, so I consider that my hometown. I was actually born in Nebraska, and we had, again, my dad was a minister, so we'd lived in a couple of small towns. Before Mobridge, it was Beersford, and it's been fun because there have been other people, or are other people in our church who have Beersford roots. In fact, Nancy Sternquist was a part of the church in Beersford when my dad was the minister there, and one of her younger sisters was a really good friend of mine. So there's just fun connections like that.
Yeah.
That's
Anyway, neat. So if you had advice that you could give your former self, younger self, or anybody today, what would that advice be?
I've been thinking about that because I knew you were zeroing in on me. You've been bugging me for a while, and I thought, what would I say? What would I say? And I thought, maybe the piece of advice that I still have to give myself is, it sounds funny, but all you can do is all you can do. You can't fix everything. We don't know the consequences of our decisions. In many cases, we just have to do the best we can. I don't believe the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I believe good intentions are what we have. We just need to try to do our best. And then whatever happens, leave it in the hands of God. It'll work out if it's meant to, or it won't, and maybe that's what's supposed to happen. But all you can do is all you can do.
Yeah, agreed.
I've just learned that little
give yourself some grace with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just do your best.
Yeah.
At any moment, and no one can ask more.
So, growing up, how did you get to school?
I started school in Beersford, and I walked. It was about 3 blocks, and I remember walking when it was way below zero, or at least this is my memory, and or whatever the temperature was, that's what we did. We just walked, and I had friends in the neighborhood that went. There was a school, and it was, so we would walk together or whatever. I particularly remember walking home from school because I was forever finding some new way to get home, just for the fun of it. I think now I can't believe I would do it, but I went under shrubbery and into people's backyards and down this little alley and whatever, just to make it different when I would come home from school. Do not ask me why. I have no idea, but that's what I used to do. Then in Mobridge, we lived farther away than that, but we still either rode our bikes or walked. Never drove to school in my entire life. Not
Wow.
until I went to grad school, which was in Vermilion, and I lived here. Then you kind of had to drive. Other than that, it was always walking.
Wow.
So, I don't know. But it wasn't walking 3 miles uphill on the way and 3 miles uphill on the way back either. Never. It was easy.
Yeah. Well, you're a little different than a lot of the people I've talked to because you're a city girl.
Yeah, oh
You know,
yeah,
they're not
big city.
Big cities, but you know, you didn't live on a farm.
No, it's true.
Your family didn't grow up farming.
That's
at
exactly
least,
right.
At least your dad.
No.
Now, I don't know about grandma and grandpa.
No.
What did they do?
My grandfather on my mother's side was he worked in several businesses. My mom was from Winter, South Dakota, and he worked, like I said, in several businesses. But when I knew him, he was a carpenter and a kind of what you'd call a contractor. Now he built. We used to drive to places he was building. He built motels.
Oh, wow.
I mean, and
cool.
I don't know if he really did it all by himself, but that's what it seemed like to me as a child. So he was very handy. And my grandmother, my mom's mother, was a printer. She worked in a job printing place out there. And my dad's family were all printers. So I don't know how that worked, but I've got printers on both sides of the family. My dad's dad was a printer, and his mom with 13 children at various points, 4 of whom had died before my dad was born. But she was a stay-at-home mom. But anyway, she was very educated, and education was very important to her, and so they were Congregationalists. She came from New England, where her father had been a congregational minister.
Okay.
And they made a real effort to get their kids to go to college, and a whole bunch of those kids came to Yankton College, including my dad. And then my mother also came here, and that's where they met. So,
Okay.
And my siblings all came here too. One didn't graduate from here, went on somewhere else because she was engaged to someone. But at any rate, we're all Yankton College people. So again, it's kind of meant to be. But printers and carpenters, no farmers. You're right.
So what did you get your degree in?
I have a bachelor's degree in economics,
Okay.
and then I got my master's degree in economics. My intention. I never had a really big plan. I did when I was young. I wanted to be a cowboy
All right.
or an FBI agent.
Very good.
Then as I got older, even going into college, I thought I'd like to go into politics. I thought I wanted to be a United States Senator. And didn't do that either. It was funny, and I went to my high school 50th reunion a couple of years ago, and there was a young kid in my class, and he was a good Catholic boy, and he was going to grow up to be Pope, and I was going to grow up to be president, and we were going to, fix the world, Now he is a family man with multiple generations of grandchildren, and I am not president. So There you go.
Yeah.
But I did teach economics off and on at both Yankton College and 1 year at Mount Marty to take on a class that they needed someone to help with. But I've never really used it in quite the way I planned. My life went off in a different direction.
Yeah. So what did you do with most of your life job-wise?
That's a very good question. What I ended up doing for the longest period of time was I went into the ministry, but I was not ordained. I had done some supply ministry, even when I was in college, because I was always a public speaker, always more comfortable in front of a group than with somebody one-on-one, sorry. But I had done that, and a church, it was the UCC church in Crofton, Nebraska, where you know where that is, needed a minister. Theirs had left, and they were kind of in trouble, and I'd filled in there a couple of times. And I was at a point where I needed work at that moment. And so they hired me for 3 months on a trial basis, just to see if we could get things going well enough, to go beyond that, or if they should, what they should do. And I stayed 10 and a half years.
Oh.
And I was not ordained. I was a licensed lay minister, so I could do everything. I married, I buried, communion and all those things. And it was a wonderful experience. I have often said, I have often thanked the people over there for helping me grow up.
Mm-hmm.
I was 25 when I started that, and I remember thinking it's going to be so easy to come up with a sermon every week because I have so much I want to say, Again, about 2 or 3 weeks in, I thought, now what do I do? But I learned so much from them about how to be an adult,
Mm-hmm.
and they were very patient with me. But we had a wonderful time. Those were very good years. And then I thought maybe about going to seminary, and then I got sick, and so I didn't. And so then I filled in for a year and a half as an interim minister at the Newcastle, Nebraska UCC Church, and they were yoked, they call it, with a Lutheran church in Maskell, Nebraska, just a few miles apart. And that was a very interesting experience for me. I enjoyed that a lot. Again, really good people, and I learned a lot. And it was, so that's what I did. For 12 years, I was in the ministry. So that's the longest I did anything. The reason I left is because I got sick. I had developed some kind of weird arthritis, which we still have not, no one has been able quite to diagnose. That was when I was still in Crofton. And so I couldn't work full time. I was very tired and just all kinds of things. But I kept adding to that. The longer I did anything, I probably overdid. I probably didn't take good care of myself. I don't know, or I was just lucky. But I finally had to leave the church at Maskell and Newcastle because I got what they sometimes still call chronic fatigue syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
I never experienced anything like it, and I've had people say, well, I know what it's like to be really tired, and I'm thinking, you have no idea. I would literally, after I stopped, I would fall asleep on my way over driving. So finally, my folks lived here at the time for a while, and my dad would drive me over and back just because I would sleep. I would go to a doctor's appointment, and I would be sound asleep in the chair in the waiting room by the time they came to get me. So I came home and basically laid on the couch slept 12, 13 hours a day. I couldn't even watch TV. That took too much energy. I mean, it was really, it's hard to, it's even hard for me to believe how tired I was. And it comes back occasionally on me still, but I try to be careful. I learned how to sort of manage it. Once in a while it jumps up on me anyway. But so after that, I've worked part-time doing all kinds of things. I worked at the library. I don't know, the last 10 years before I fully retired, whatever that means, I was a freelance editor. I edited books for people all over the computer, mostly in this country, a couple out of the United Kingdom, which was really interesting. That was really fun. A friend of mine who had that work and knew my work, I'd written a couple of books, and she knew my books, and she said, you could do this job. I'll set you up with somebody. And so she got me into it, and I did that and loved it. As I tell people, everything I read, not intentionally, but everything I read, I find all the mistakes anyway. I read any book, and I'm going, I shouldn't have said that, or oh, that's a typo, or whatever. And so this way I just got paid for reading books and telling people what was wrong with them. It was perfect. I mean, it was just ideal for me. And it was enough to bring in a little extra income to supplement my Social Security disability. And I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah.
And I could do it on my own schedule. And clients would know that I wasn't going to ever be the fastest in the world because I had to do it a little at a time. And but anyway, so I spent 10 years doing that. But just lots of odds and ends in there, lots of things.
Learns from all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. In some ways, if I'd ever been a United States Senator, I'd probably been bored to tears because I didn't get to do all those different things,
Right. Yeah.
I like variety, I guess. So,
What was your first job?
my first job would have been, well, I'm sure babysitting. But the first outside the house job or somebody's house would have been, I was a car hop at Dean's Drive-In in Mobridge, which was the place to be. And in fact, the way I remember it is there were 4 drive-ins in town when I was of an age.
Wow.
Yeah, and there were 2 at this end of town and 2 at that end of town, and the others paid 30 cents an hour. Ooh. And Dean's only paid 25 cents an hour, but we all wanted to work at Dean's, so we took a job at less because it was the cool place to be. And so that was my first outside the house.
Did you
job.
have to use roller skates? Or?
I did.
No?
Oh,
Okay.
then that would have been hopeless. There would have been no one who would have been hiring me on on roller skates. Let me tell you.
Oh,
No
my
way, no how.
goodness. Oh. So, did you have activities that you participated in high
Yeah.
school? And
There weren't sports for girls at that point. There just literally were not, and I wouldn't have probably been any good at them anyway. But I was in everything: musical, band, chorus,
Okay.
all the ensembles, and so on, and debate. I'm trying to think of what they used to call it. I did extemporaneous speaking. There was like, I'm trying to remember what they called it. Anyway, where we still do it. The word escapes me. Where you do readings and so on, poetry or original oratory or
Okay,
that kind of thing.
okay.
I did that kind of thing too. So anything with music or talking. And then I was involved with everything. I was junior class president. I was
Oh.
the secretary of the pep club. I mean, it was just one of those. Oh, plays. I did plays. So, that kind of thing.
yeah.
Anything but sports, because there wasn't sports, and just as well in my case.
I get that.
Never would have been a basketball player, for
So,
example.
something
Mm-hmm.
that would surprise people about you.
I knew you were going to ask that too, and so I've been thinking about that, and I thought, I don't know that there are many surprises left about me. I think at least there are people in the church that know probably little bits and pieces of what might be surprising to others. But the thing I thought first of all, saying probably people would be surprised to find out I'm short, but then I thought, no, that's pretty obvious. So the other thing, what I came up with is that I used to work in radio. I started in radio in high school. I used to play my baritone ukulele and then the guitar and sing, and I would do that at gatherings. And I did it at the country club one night for some kind of an event, and the radio station manager was there, and he came up to me afterwards and he said, "How would you like to work at the station? I'd like to put you to work." And I said, "Okay." And mostly I emptied garbage cans, and so talking about being short, the thing you had to empty it into, I had to climb up on the trailer and anyway, but and I just managed a lot of the station at that point was automated, and I was there in the evenings and would make sure nothing went funny. But the reason he wanted me to work for him is because he wanted to have a rock and roll show. And this was country radio. That's what there was in that part of the world. And he wanted 15 minutes of a kind of rock and roll on Sunday afternoons right after the polka party. And and then I would have people come in, like homecoming king and queen from another area town come in, and we'd talk a little, 15 minutes, and I'd play like 3 records, So that was the beginning of my career as a DJ. But then when I came here to Yankton College, I worked at KYNT, and I did DJing, and I also spent the first summer I was here doing the news, covering the news and so on. Journalism has always been another interest of mine, and in fact I went back to school for a while for some of actual journalism training at the University of Missouri in Columbia, which is one of the top journalism schools.
It is.
And anyway, so I did that, and then later on, even when I was working at Crofton, I worked at a station that doesn't exist here anymore called KQHU, and it was a rock and roll station, and I had the overnight shift, 11 to 7.
Did you have a DJ name?
Kathy Todd. Todd was my mother's maiden name, and I didn't want to use Grow because that was my name at the church. I thought, yeah, let's not cause them any problems, that they're late night rock and roll DJ minister. But so I went by Kathy Todd, and I enjoyed that. I only lasted a couple of weeks because I was getting sick. This was the arthritis was setting in, and I could not manage it was standing for that period of time, and it was exhausting. And but it was fun. So that, I think, might surprise people to know that I was in an earlier life, more than once, a rock and roll DJ.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Kathy Todd, the rock and roll
That's
DJ.
it. That's it.
Related or not related to Mary Todd Lincoln?
Related. We don't exactly, I've never tracked it down, but some of my relatives say, yes, we are definitely somehow related.
Ah.
And I had Grow family relatives, and this one we can track down, who were actually good friends of Abraham Lincoln and campaigned for him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah. There you go. So, what's your favorite time of year?
Fall.
Why?
No question. Partly my birthday's in the fall.
Oh,
I mean, doesn't
there
that
you
always
go.
have something to do with it, I guess. I love cool, dry weather. I love the colors. I'm not a big heat person, so I was always glad when summer was over. I loved school, always did. So fall,
Going back to
school. There was just nothing wrong with fall, except it was too short.
Yes. You got to go and buy all the new clothes for school. I
Right,
always
there you
liked
go.
That.
Or my mom would make them.
Oh,
So,
cool.
a lot of clothes my mom made. She was good at it.
Yeah. So, anything else you want to share with us about your life, insights you've had, plethora of knowledge?
I feel like I should say something about the fact that I lived here and went to the Episcopal Church here for 20 years
Okay.
until I came back to our church about 10, 11 years ago now.
Okay.
And that seemed very odd to a lot of people. It seemed odd to me. It seemed odd to my family. But this is when I left the churches in Maskell and Newcastle because I was so exhausted, and no one at that point really understood what to do about it, and still we don't quite understand it all. But I needed to go to a place where I would be, that's not how I wanted to say it. At that point, I just didn't feel comfortable coming back to the UCC church here, and I don't even know how to explain it, but part of it is there's two things I think really figure into it, and it sounds very strange. One is that one of my favorite authors of all time is Madeleine L'Engle, who wrote The Wrinkle in Time and a lot of other books. And in fact, in the bookshelf behind us, I have almost every book she ever wrote. But she was an Episcopalian, lived in New York City, but she and her husband and family moved to Connecticut, and they went to the Congregational Church there. And she had written a number of times about what she loved about both kinds of church, because in many ways the Episcopal Church and the UCC Church, Congregational in the olden days, have similar kinds of beliefs in terms of, but their approach to worship is very different. And when I was in Maskell and Newcastle, I served the Lutheran Church in Maskell. It was an ELCA church, the most progressive of the Lutheran churches, like Trinity here. And I really loved the liturgy, which was a shock to me. And a real shock to my dad, because he really did not like liturgical worship. That was a thing he had always taught us. No. Anyway, but I just loved it. And when I needed something, because I was really in trouble, physically in every way, I was, whatever age I was, I lost track now. That was a long time ago, 89, 90, something like that. So, I was in my 40s, early 40s, something. And I had no idea what I was going to do with the rest of my life. How was I going to pay any bills? I was just lost. And I felt like I needed something with structure. And so I thought, I'm going to try the Episcopal Church here. Just try it. And I liked it and I ended up staying there for 20 years and
Wow.
enjoyed it very much. The reason I left has to do with it was a thing with the minister that was there at the time, and we just could never work it out. And I finally just thought, I can't keep doing this. And so I actually tried several other churches. I didn't know where to go. And I've told the choir this story, and maybe you were there when I did it, or maybe not. I came back, I tried the UCC, it was the last one I tried. And I wasn't resisting it or anything, I just wanted to look around a little bit. And I came on a Sunday when at the end of the service we sang, I think God Be With You, or Blessed Be the Tie That Binds, one of those. And Ted stopped playing the organ, and the congregation just sang a cappella. And right behind me were Lola and Mel Waldner, and Iro, and I can't say her name now. Iro Mogan and his wife, who had lived in Mobridge, came right after we left, by the way. And there was somebody else. Anyway, there were 3 couples back there, all with beautiful voices. We all sung in choirs and so on. And I stood in front of those people, and I listened to this congregation sing like they sing. I thought, well, okay, this is a done deal. So I went looking for Jennifer, and I said, when does choir start practicing? And that was it. And so that's how I came back.
We're real lucky to have you.
Well, I feel very fortunate to.
You've been a real blessing since
Well,
I've been there. Bible study and
it's been a real church home for me, and that's exactly what I needed. And I'm glad I made the choices. I'm not sorry I did the 20 years as an Episcopalian. I learned a lot about a lot of things, and made a whole nother group of friends, you know.
Yes.
Had a lot of great experiences, but I'm glad to be back. It feels like where I belong. So,
We're glad you're back.
well, thank you.
And you do belong.
Well, thank you.
And you help others to feel like they belong.
Well,
so.
I hope so. I feel like our church, especially right now, has that real feeling of it really is a family. It really is something. When you're part of it, you are part of it, and you don't have to be along. You know, that can happen to you the first Sunday you come.
Right.
Or we'll do our best to make it happen for you. You know.
That is so true. And after COVID, it's really nice to be back together.
I agree, and I think that's part of it. That appreciation of being back together again. It's important.
It is. Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
It's been a joy being here. And
I'm a little scared to see it.
everybody says that.
I'm sure they
it's
do.
Okay, but thank you so much.
Well, it's such a great project. I don't know who thought this up, but thank you, Dusty, for doing this. And you do such a nice job. It's been, many of the people you've interviewed I've known forever, and one way or another, from my earlier days in the church and so on. But I've learned things about them I didn't know before, and that's
fun.
really cool. It is fun. So thank you.
Thanks.